Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining us for this, our last Sunday in July, and like to deliver the last Dharma message for this month. I'd like to begin by reading a passage from the Tannisho Postscript. I know nothing at all of good or evil, for if I could know thoroughly, as Amida Tathagata knows, that an act was good, then I would know good. If I could know thoroughly, as the Tathagata knows, that an act was evil, then I would know evil. But with a foolish being full of blind passions in this fleeting world, this burning house, all matters without exception are empty and false, totally without truth and sincerity. The Nembutsu alone is true and real. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Butsu. Namo. Okay, this is a fascinating statement attributed to Shinran. It's actually written by Yuiembo, one of Shinran's students or disciples, who, after Shinran had passed, wrote this text called the Tannisho. Some of it is Shinran's words as Yuien remembers them. Some of it is Yuien writing about certain issues, but this statement is Yuien attributes to Shinran. I know nothing at all of good and evil, right? Buddha knows good and evil because Buddha has perfect wisdom. But a being, foolish being, full of blind passions, the klesha or the bonno, right, in this samsaric world, the burning house, everything empty and false, totally without truth or sincerity. The Nembutsu alone is true and real, right? What an interesting statement. Is it kind of problematic? One side with a foolish view, foolish being kind of view, yeah, that my view is totally warped, right? That I don't see things as they are. I see things through a lens that's formed by my genetics, that's formed by my upbringing, formed by my experiences, formed by my karma, right? So that I'm seeing a distorted view of reality, not seeing the way things truly are, is one way to think about it. But to then go to the opposite end and say, so nothing, everything is false and empty in this world, is a pretty interesting, potentially extreme statement. I think it fits a lot of kinds of Buddhism, but in our just kind of everyday regular view of things, I think it's not what we expect. Aren't there some things we can say are wrong, right? And so one thing that maybe we might think was, well, killing is wrong. Like in the Bible, thou shalt not kill. Right? And isn't killing wrong? But if we eat meat, then we are going against this statement of killing is wrong. Right? If we allow wars to happen and allow for people, to be killed in wartime, then we're, even though we say, but killing is wrong, but we allow it. Should you kill one person in order to save the lives of 1 million? Isn't killing that one person wrong? Right? So even like a simple statement that on the surface we'd be like, of course killing is wrong, yeah. But if you really pull it apart and think about it, you realize, wait a second, can we survive without killing? Right? Can we truly live without, even if we don't eat meat, aren't plants alive? Right? Aren't we killing them? So that I think we need to, part of Buddhism says to critically view everything we hold dear, critically view every statement that seems to be a statement of fact or a statement of truth. So another area that I want to kind of zero in on, isn't discrimination wrong? And I think the answer is, it kind of depends on who you ask. Right? There are many societies that are set up that discriminate in a hierarchical kind of way. Right? So that certain people are more important or better or more worthy of honor and respect or than others. Right? And so Confucianism is one example, Confucianism in China, but also Confucianism has deep impact on Japan, so that Japanese language is based on hierarchy. Right? We use different, in Japanese it's called keigo, right? And this kind of polite kind of speaking. So you have to know the social status of the person you're speaking to and then use the right vocabulary accordingly. Right? So a hierarchical kind of, that is a form of discrimination, right? Now discrimination can mean different things. Actually, as long as I'm a samsaric being, I have to discriminate. But it's not like the kind of discrimination we think, just to discriminate this instead of that, you instead of me, up instead of down. That's a form of discrimination, a kind of neutral form of discrimination. Now, when discrimination becomes an issue of power, right, so that people with power discriminating against people without power or with less power, then that's where we get more into what we think of as racism or racial discrimination or sexual discrimination, right, gender discrimination. So some societies, that kind of discrimination is normal and good. However, I think that my view is, that's part of what potentially makes America great if we go beyond that kind of discrimination. Now, historically, I don't think that we necessarily have, right? But obviously we have not in many cases. But this kind of view of equality as a different kind of way to be, right? That can we not all be equal? So that we're not just because I'm older or because I'm a certain race or because I'm a man, I'm more worthy of power or privilege or whatever, right? And so that, to me personally, not speaking necessarily Buddhist, but just me personally, that's the kind of world I would like to see, right? A world more of equality rather than a world based on discrimination. So how does that fit into Shinran's statement? And does Shinran say, I don't know, I can't know, I don't know the difference between good and evil, so everything's bad here, so whatever, right? I don't think that's what he's saying, really. Even if we can't know good and evil, as Shinran states here, I do still think we have certain values, certain Buddhist values, and that's what I've been trying to talk about for the past couple months, and kind of continuing here, right? I think Shinran felt this way too, this kind of value of equality. One expression that Shinran uses when talking about Amida Buddha, for example, in the wasans, the poems that are often recited after Shoshinge, he says that it's the Buddha's enlightenment is the awakening of equality, Byodo Gaku, or we could maybe also call it awakening of non-discrimination, not discriminating. Oh, older is better than younger, right? Men are better than women. Not doing that. It's equality, right? And that's Buddha's awakening to the equality of all beings, awakening to the equality of all things. All beings are equal. And as you often hear me say, Amida Buddha does not discriminate between young and old, male, female, monk, layperson, well-born versus poor, low caste or low class, right? Amida Buddha does not make these distinctions. And I think we have other things now, right, where I don't think Amida Buddha discriminates based on sexual preference, for example, right? Amida Buddha views all beings equally, accepts all beings as they are. And so even if we can't actualize this in my daily life, it's still an ideal to aspire for. It's still a basic kind of worldview, right? It's still values that I feel like I hold as a Buddhist, as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, right? Is to aspire for this wisdom of awakening of equality, awakening of non-discrimination. So then what is Shinran talking about when he says, I do not know the difference between good and evil? And I think there he's talking more about my own views, right? And that if I think about it, I have views of this is good, this is bad, I like this, I don't like that, I think that person's stupid, I think that person's great, whatever, right? I like this kind of music, I don't like that kind of music, I like this food, I don't like that food, right? We're always making these kind of distinctions. And so if I really cling to those and think that that's true, then there's a problem. I think that's what Shinran is talking about. He's really cautioning us from attaching too much to our own views of right and wrong, good and evil, this and that. And so asking us to, we of course, we have values, we have opinions, but don't cling to them so much that you can't see other possibilities, right? Don't cling to them so much that you can't consider the possibility that the other person that you're fighting with or whatever might have some right on their side too, or that maybe I'm so angry at that person because how could they believe that when maybe they believe it because of experiences that they've had. And so that's where empathy comes in too, right? I said at a memorial service today about in order to, before you judge someone, walk a mile in their shoes, right? And this kind of idea of try to see things from the other person's perspective. Don't cling so much to your own view of what's right and wrong. That's part of right view in the Eightfold Path too. I think we, a lot of times we say, oh yes, the Eightfold Path. But what is right view? Do I have right view? To me, in a Shinshu perspective, I like to call it, instead of the Eightfold Noble Path, the Eightfold Ignoble Path. That my view is not right view, but realizing that is part of the process, right? And so even though I like to think I'm right, and I just can't help but assume that the way I see things is the way they are, Amida Buddha helps show me, Shinran Shonin's teachings help show me that it's not the whole picture, and that I really need to reflect, need to look at myself, look at my views, look at the perspective of the other, and say the Nembutsu. Right? Maybe that's where the Nembutsu alone is true and real. Right? No matter what I think, no matter what situation I get into, do it the best of your ability. Right? Don't just think, well, I can't know, so it's nothing I can do. That's not it. Right? Fight for your convictions, but say the Nembutsu. Realize that I don't want to just get lazy and just assume that I'm right. Right? Even in the midst of fighting for social justice or fighting against racism, that I also need to look at myself and need to look at my own views and remember to try and be critical, to reflect on that as part of the whole picture. So I want to thank you very much. The next couple of services is going to be Obon and the Hatsubon service next week, and then Shotsuki the week after that. And so we'll have kind of more like regular service kind of things. But thank you very much for joining us at these talks over the summer. And why don't we conclude with Gasho, and I'd like to read the passage one more time. I know nothing at all of good or evil, for if I could know thoroughly, as Amida Tathagata knows, that an act was good, then I would know good. If I could know thoroughly as the Tathagata knows that an act was evil, then I would know evil. But with a foolish being full of blind passions in this fleeting world, this burning house, all matters without exception are empty and false, totally without truth and sincerity. The Nembutsu alone is true and real. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Nama.